Straight up. Welcome to your Way Happy Bible Study. I'm Lisa Dennis Sparks, and you're watching Christians United Broadcasting Network. CUBN, where we want to see you be encouraged in Jesus' name. Welcome back to your Way Happy Bible Study on CUBN. We are at Del Mar Beach on Camp Pendleton at Oceanside, California. We're on the military base. My son-in-law's a Marine. And I'm here visiting my son-in-law and my daughter and my 3 grandchildren here. And they're all sick. Bless their hearts. And it sounds like I'm trying to come down with it too. I hadn't noticed it until now. I'm just starting to kind of get a scratchy throat and stuff like that. So now we're in Daniel chapter 10. And we are at verse 12. Now, what we were talking about is how when Daniel started praying, his words were heard from the very first day he started praying. Okay? And when he did that, God sent the answer the first day. But we're going to find out why the angel didn't show up, why Gabriel didn't show up the first day he started praying in the next verse. So he says, "Fear not, Daniel," in verse 12, for from the first day that thou didst set thy heart to understand and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. In verse 13, but the prince of the kingdom of Persia, now this is an angel, withstood me 21 days, 21 days, 3 weeks. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. And I remained there with the kings of Persia. So it says Michael, he's the other archangel, the general of God's armies, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. In verse 14, so Michael came and took over the fight, so Gabriel could go ahead and bring the message. In verse 14, now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days. For yet the vision is for many days, so it's way in the future. In verse 15, and when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground, and I became dumb. So when he started speaking, Daniel set his face toward the ground, and he couldn't speak. He couldn't speak. It says, I became dumb. In verse 16, and behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. And then I opened my mouth and spake, and said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me. So he's grieving like crazy
by what he's being shown. And I have retained no strength. In verse 17, for how can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? For as for me, straightway there remained no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me. In verse 18, then there came again and touched me one like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me. Troy, if you can hear me, brother, this is going to have to be our last segment because my throat is really starting to kill me here. There came again and touched me one like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me. In verse 19, and said, O man, greatly beloved, fear not. Peace be unto thee. Be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened, and said, let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Now see, notice all it took for him to be strengthened was for this angel to say, O man, greatly beloved, fear not. Peace be unto thee. Be strong, yea, be strong. So for him to speak it and say, be strong, yea, be strong. Oh, I'm waving. Hi, Tad. Hi. So if you guys message me on Messenger, it's coming up on my phone to where I can see it. How about that? So that's a way I can see what your comments are. If you send me a message on the Facebook Messenger. Now, and we're being simulcast in a lot of different venues here. So, in verse 20, then said he, knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. When I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. So remember you had Babylon, then you had Medo-Persia, then you had Greece, then you had Rome, right? So he's saying, when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. These are spirits, okay? These are angels that are territorial over that area. And you had the prince of Persia, who they were fighting with. And then he says, then when I'm gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. That was Alexander the Great's kingdom. And also spirits and angels that are territorial, and they would be the prince of Grecia. Okay? In verse 21, but I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holdeth with me in these things, but Michael your prince. So he says he's going to fight on behalf of Israel, and Michael's going to fight on behalf of Israel, but there's nobody else. Okay? Now we're going to go straight into chapter 11. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now I will show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And see, Greece, with Alexander the Great, conquered the Medes and Persians. So remember, you had Babylon, Medes and Persians, then Greece, Alexander, and then you had Rome. In verse 3, and a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And he's talking about Alexander the Great. In verse 4, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven. That's Alexander's kingdom was broken into 4 pieces. And not to his posterity. It doesn't go to, he doesn't have a son who takes over this kingdom. nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. So Alexander's 4 generals took over those four sections that his kingdom broke up into after Alexander the Great's death. In verse 5, and the king of the south shall be strong, one of his princes, that's Rome, and he shall be strong above him and have dominion, and his dominion shall be a great dominion. That's Seleucus, who one of Alexander's generals, who his section, his 1/4 that he ruled, became Rome. In verse 6, and in the end of years they shall join themselves together. You've got nations, you've got separate nations. He's talking about separate nations being one entity. Kind of like now, you've got revived Rome. You've got the EU, which is that same geographical area, but it's broken up into individual parts, but it acts as one unit with one army. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in this times. Now this is probably Cleopatra and Caesar, okay? In verse 7, but out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall prevail against them, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. So you have Rome, and shall carry captives into Egypt their gods with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, and shall return into his own land. But his sons shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. And one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up even to his fortress. So this is talking about the rise of Rome. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. This is Rome, okay? For the king of the north shall return and set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches. And in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. In verse 15, so the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount, and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand. So you got Rome just swallowing up the Holy Lands here, and this was when Jesus was there. Rome was in charge of Jerusalem. Neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. So Rome was in charge. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will. And none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land by which his hand shall be consumed. Now this could be Antiochus Epiphanes, who defiled the second temple. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do. And he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. Now, revived Rome is actually ruling the USA, Canada, Australia. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. Now, this is where the Caesars start taking over. But within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom. That was Herod, see? But he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Now, this is also a picture of the end time Antichrist. He comes in and he takes over through peace and diplomacy, and not with weapons. In verse 22, and with the arms of a flood shall they be overthrown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. That's where Jesus was crucified. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done. See, this Pope is a Roman. He grew up in Argentina, but he's got two Roman-born parents. So he's of Roman descent. Now it says, he shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province. He goes everywhere, doesn't he? And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey, and spoil and riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. So he shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. Now keep in mind, at a certain point, the church is destroyed. The Vatican will be destroyed at a certain point. Okay? And when it is destroyed, then he will go and move into the temple in Jerusalem. So we're looking at second half events here. And they forecast devices in verse 25. And what that means is that they have to tell what they're going to do before they do it. And you'll notice that they do that, like on television. And with movies and things like that, all of these things are forecasted. In verse 25, and he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him. So this particular leader that it's talking about, he's going to be destroyed by his own people, by those that actually sit at his table with him. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him. And his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief. Now this could be Gog, Magog, okay? And they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper. You're looking at diplomacy here. See, they're speaking lies at this table, but it shall not prosper. For yet the end shall be at the time appointed. There is an appointed time, which is known as a moed, which means appointed time. All of these times are appointed. which is why it is possible that Daniel's equation has given us the timing for those appointed times. Okay. In verse 28, then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant. He's against the holy covenant. He's the Antichrist, see? He shall do exploits and return to his own land. So you've got a leader in the EU who is, his heart is against the holy covenant. That's our Antichrist. And he shall do exploits and return to his own land. At the time appointed, he shall return and come toward the south. But it shall not be as the former or as the latter. Now, remember, the south would be, the south would be the Holy Lands, which is south of the Rome. Okay. In verse 30, it says, time appointed he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. It's not going to be like it was in 70 AD. For the ships of Chittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So you're looking at a point where you've got this Antichrist Pope who is in charge. Satan has put him in charge over the EU and these 10 kings. But at some point, the 10 kings turn on him and they destroy the Vatican, they seize its assets, and they distribute all of that wealth among the people from the Vatican that they take there. And it says, he shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So you got your Antichrist in cahoots with those who are the wicked, those that forsake the holy covenant. In verse 31, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice. That's what's going to happen in the days ahead. And they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. That's the image of the beast placed in the new temple. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. He doesn't come in with weapons. He comes in with diplomacy and flatteries. He corrupts by flatteries. He comes in flattering. What they want is a Muslim-Jewish war where the Muslims and the Jews wipe each other out. So they come in by flatteries and they build up the anger inside the Muslims against the Jews and arm them against the Jews, and they arm the Jews to fight back. They're making weapons and they're getting rich off of selling weapons to both sides and starting wars. And they've been doing this all over the planet. They corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God, that's us, we know our God, don't we, shall be strong and do exploits. In verse 33, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Now you know who that is? That's our 144,000. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. In verse 34, now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help. They're going to be fleeing to Petra. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. The wicked they are going to embrace, they're going to take the mark, the wicked among the Jews, they will take the mark, but not the children of God, they won't. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. They want to tell you exactly, the wicked tell you exactly what you want to hear. In verse 35, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white. even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. This is the second half of the 7-year tribulation period. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. He's going to rule Jerusalem for 42 months, the whole second half. For that is that determined shall be done. In verse 37, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. Now, let's look at that. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers. This Antichrist comes from, he's a pope. Some of the popes have been, have loved God. Okay? Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women. What is the desire of women? That's debatable, isn't it? The desire of women. It could be. I don't think it means that he is homosexual. I think it's possible he does not regard the desire of women. It doesn't say he doesn't have a desire for women. It says he does not regard the desire of women. What is the desire of women? The families, children. He doesn't regard the family structure. That's my guess on that. Nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. The Jesuits are the military arm of the Catholic Church. They are, in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. That's military strength. And the Jesuits are the military arm of the Catholic Church. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. This Pope, he does what is called spiritual exercises, like Ignatius Loyola, who founded the Jesuit order, and then Adam Weishaupt, who was a Jesuit, founded the Illuminati. So you can see where all this is going. And so this Pope, when he does his spiritual exercises, like Loyola said that when he was doing his spiritual exercises, he saw a luminous serpent. That's what he said, a luminous serpent that gave him knowledge and wisdom. Well, we know who that is, don't we? That's Satan. But this Pope he's a Luciferian, see? He's a Jesuit, which they produce the black popes. Anyway, he honors them with silver, precious stones, and pleasant things. Okay, I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me, guys. I love you. God bless you. And hopefully we can try this again tomorrow and pick up where we left off. And should the Lord tarry, we'll see you tomorrow, here, there, or in the air. God bless you. Straight up.